What's going on, Chum Guzzlers? Welcome back to Bucket of Chum, the Shark Movie Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Captain Steve, and this week is your second week of Spooky Sharktober, and we're taking a look at OUIJA Shark 2, directed by John Migliore, who was an actor in the first movie. He's one of the main characters in this movie, so we've seen him a couple of times, but this movie is also really cool because it has a score by Mike Trebilcock, who did the theme song for Bucket of Chum, of course, and he also has a small cameo in the movie as a news reporter. So John's character from the first movie, he was the father of the woman who found the Ouija board, and we do get a little bit of a recap right at the very beginning of the movie. The first movie was directed by Brett Kelly, who is an Ottawa filmmaker, which is where I'm from. He wasn't invited back to direct this movie, and I think him and John were also friends, but they didn't talk to him about it or something. I don't know the whole story because I haven't heard it from either one of them. This was just something I heard when I was on 8 Questions With, an episode I was on for another podcast a while ago. So yeah, I don't know about that. I was a really big fan of the first movie, so either way, I was very excited to check out a sequel for it, and this is, again, one I wanted to do last year, and I didn't get a chance to, so I didn't even watch it. I've been saving it for a fresh watch this year, and I'm really glad that I did. Now, if I remember right, the first movie ends with, like, Donald Trump at the White House on the phone, making some sort of shady, devilish deal. So we don't really pick up from that in this movie, but we do get a line that sort of kind of helps explain that, and that this demon that has the control of the shark, Caldura, has had influence over people. So that's sort of what it's referring to, I guess. So we're not really picking up right where the last movie left off, per se, which I'm kind of glad we don't. We don't need any of that shit in this movie this time around. But without any further ado, let's just get into the letterbox plot synopsis. When the Ouija shark emerges from hell to cause havoc once more on Earth, a sorcerer with a history of fighting the ghostly Great White must follow it into a multiverse hellscape for one final battle. But this time, he's bringing along some friends to help send the shark into oblivion. Now, this has an average rating of 2.8 stars on Letterboxd, which is a little bit higher than a lot of the movies we look at. As far as poster expectations go, this poster looks like just some digital art of like any other shark movie you might see on Tubi or something like that. But it's got a giant shark and a giant alligator and some explosions in a city by the water, which, it doesn't really give you a whole lot to go off of, but I mean, knowing the first movie, I'm just expecting more of that. I want those like really cheesy shark effects, which it was basically just like a plush shark toy, but you could see through it, so it was kind of like a ghostly looking shark sort of deal. So if we honestly just get more of that from this movie, then I will be very happy with that. But before we go any further, if you're enjoying the show and you're a fan of the show and you would like to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/Bucket of Chum. Each month I'm over there doing an exclusive episode for only $2 or $3 a month, depending on where you live. This month we're taking a look at Revenge of the Creature, continuing on with our Creature from the Black Lagoon I've been doing for every October so far. So make sure you go check that out. If you can't do any of that, if you could just like and subscribe to the YouTube channel or leave a rating or review wherever it is you get your podcast, that is all greatly appreciated. But for now, there's nothing else left to do other than to whip out my crystal balls, and let's dive in. And speaking of crystal balls, this movie starts off on a crystal ball, and we just see images and people, and it's basically just events from the first movie, and it's being narrated by Anthony, who's played by John Migliore. Sorry if I'm not saying that name correctly. We all know I can't say names worth shit, so that's what it is. But so apparently this takes place a few months after the first movie, and he talks about the Ouija board being attracted to his daughter because of her aura or something, because they come from like a line of like psychic people or something like that. And then the shark came into our world to feed on our essence and whatnot, and his daughter had to turn to him for help, which led to his death. But he didn't go straight to the afterlife, and his daughter eventually took down the shark, and now she's missing since, I guess, finding the person responsible for this board. We don't really see a lot of her in this movie, but I think towards the end, they sort of allude that that's probably what the third movie is going to be about. So yeah, I didn't mention that, but they are making a third one. I believe it's already filming. It may already even be finished, I'm not sure, but it is definitely happening, I know that much. But Anthony is now just cursed to walk amongst the damned in hell, basically. And then we get the credits and title card rolling up, And I can't wait to see how Tarot Gator is a Tarot Gator. Like, I don't really know how that's going to work, but I'm excited to see. So we see this woman walking through a graveyard until she comes to Anthony's headstone and says, "You always had to play the hero, didn't you? No, you always were the hero." But she's also glad that he helped their daughter out. So this is his wife or ex-wife, and I guess we learn at some point her name is Cressida. Cressida, that's what they say. They say Cressida. I've never fucking heard of that name in my life. But they call her Cressida, and I guess that she walked out on the husband and wife at some point, probably because of his magic or something like that. But I don't really know. But anyways, she's there, and then she's like, "Oh, yeah, so sad." And then we see this psychic woman, Ileana, whom Anthony asked for help to get rid of the shark. So I think her character's from the first movie. Not entirely sure if it's the same actor or not. I kind of feel like it's not, but again, not 100% sure. And she's rehearsing, apologizing to Cressida for Anthony dying and basically dying in his parlor fighting this shark. So they talk about what happens, and Ileana says they've completely disappeared and there's no sign of them. Cressida suggests that her husband is not fully dead and that he may have left some way for him to escape, and then Ileana agrees to help because she feels kind of obligated because he died. Cressida doesn't blame Ileana for this, it's just Ileana feeling guilty about all of this, but she's totally fine with it, she's over it, and she's actually glad that she's going to help or whatever. So they consult the crystal ball to see where Anthony may have ended up, and we then see Anthony in like a CGI hellscape just walking around, and he's literally in hell, and he's looking like Doctor Strange. Well, he looks like Doctor Strange if Doctor Strange was into BDSM, because his whole costume is just like black with like buckles and whatever, just like a buckled super fighting suit or whatever. And he's also being followed by some gorillas wearing goggles. Yep. Anthony sees them, he throws, and they throw rocks at him, and so he puts up his Doctor Strange shields. So he even does, like, you know, in Doctor Strange where he has, like, the circular shield thing, they do that a lot in this movie. And then he shoots a fireball at a gorilla, and then the rest of them get mad and start throwing shit, and then he throws more magical fireballs, and then we just see a bunch of these gorillas surrounding this man, but they're like 3 feet tall. So when we saw them before, we didn't get any sort of scale, but now they're all just around him, and he's like looking down at them, and they're like 2.5, maybe 3 feet tall at most, just jumping around. And so he does some sort of like magical pulse blast or something, which kind of like shoos them all away. And so he picks one up and asks, like, who sent them and why did they attack him? And then the gorilla psychically, and the gorilla even says, like, I'm going to talk to you psychically now, and then tells him that they were sent by Master Caldura. And Caldura is the man who is in control, or I guess he's not a man, he's like a demon or devil or something, but he's the one who is in control of Ouija Shark. And Caldura wants him dead, and then Anthony asks if this Caldura is the one who controls the Ouija Shark, and the gorilla's like, yeah, that's him. But they say to, like, never speak his name or something. But anyways, something hits him, and the gorilla is dead, and then we just see the tail fin of a shark swimming away. So this shark can also shoot fireballs out of its mouth. Don't remember if it did that in the first one, but in this one, it does all kinds of weird magical shit. And so Anthony proclaims that he is coming for Caldura and his murderous pet. Back at the parlor, Ileana isn't having any luck contacting Anthony, and she gets a seeing stone, which in combination with the crystal ball will help them see Anthony and his surroundings. Why they didn't just start off with this in the first place, I don't really know. And so they then discover that Anthony is stuck in hell, and he's still hunting the shark. Cressida asks if she can get him out. Ileana says that it's way outside her area of expertise. And so Cressida asks if there's anyone who can help, and Ileana says that her mother could probably help, but they haven't talked in a really long time, they're not even on speaking terms. And so Cressida just asks, like, where she is, and she'll go see her herself, and she'll even put in a good word for Ileana, being like, hey, you know, maybe she'll come see you if I put in a good word for you or something. So she gets some info on where to find her, and apparently this woman just lives out in the middle of the woods somewhere. So these two hug, and then Cressida goes out to look for her. We go back in hell, and there's a bikini babe who sees some buff, half-naked dude fighting a dinosaur, And then she starts running from the Ouija shark, and she's just like running on the spot in front of a green screen for the most part. And then she finally gets eaten. And anytime somebody gets eaten in this hellscape, because it happens a couple of times here, basically both the shark and the person just disappear into like this fireball, but then the people end up coming back because I mean they're already in hell, so they don't really die, but they do get chased by the shark and it quote unquote kills them, but they just immediately come back to life afterwards. Fucking hilarious. Then there's also this other bikini. There's actually a bunch of bikini babes there, but we see one other one, and after this woman disappears, she's like, ah, well, she deserved it, doesn't matter. But also, it also doesn't matter because they just come back to life anyways, because then the shark just comes and eats this woman as well. Then we see this devilish man, Caldura, and he's upset at what he's become, and we just see that he is surrounded by bikini women standing on rocks or something. And again, the other two women who were just eaten just suddenly reappear. And Caldura says that, like, the shark should have been his, like, ticket out of there. He should have been able to really control this thing to be the ultimate killing machine, but he was defeated. And then we break into song. I shit you not. All of a sudden, in the middle of this, we just break into a musical number, which, for audio and visual listeners and watchers, I am going to be playing a part of that song right now.
I bring the heat to the underworld. My slaves are all as happy as a shark in heat. With me, Caldura in charge. I'm a hit in Hades. With the ladies.
Wow. So I guess this is to brighten everyone's mood. So we get some singing, some dancing bikini babes. I did not see this coming. It's just so bizarre. Truly bizarre. So we cut away from this after the song is done, and Cressida is walking through a forest, and she sees a bunch of butterflies or something, and I guess they seem to be pointing to where she needs to be walking. So she walks for a bit, we go back to hell, and Anthony meets Death, and he tries talking to him, but Death doesn't respond. So Anthony gets Death to pick a tarot card, and he does this 3 times, and each time Death picks the Death tarot card. And then Anthony is like, okay, should we do like a seance? How do we communicate? Anything but a Ouija board. It doesn't really matter. But then the man finally speaks and says that Anthony isn't dead. And Anthony is like, oh yeah, before I fought the shark, I invoked the voice of Orpheus or something, and Cressida should be able to bring me back. But he can't communicate with her, so he has to figure it out, or she has to figure it out on her own. Okay. And then after this, we get a glimpse of Tarot Gator behind Anthony. So he looks, sees it, and it's like, oh, wow. And then he turns around, Death is gone. He turns back around, Tarot Gator is also gone. Just truly bizarre. And then Anthony just kind of walks off after this. So we go back to the forest. Cressida is continuing to walk, and then she finally comes across a quote-unquote tree fort. It's just really a little cabin that's built in the woods because it's not really up in a tree or anything. But either way, she says that she found this tree fort, and she's like, oh, it's exactly where I need to be, but nobody's home. So she goes inside and looks around, and then she comes back out, and then Tara is there, who is Ileana's mother. So she asks, what are you doing here? And she says she's not interested in helping, so to buzz off. But then Cressida says it's life or death, and, Ileana sent me. But Tara says that she should know better, and she should stay away from her, and, she shouldn't get her involved in any of this magical stuff or whatever. I feel like she's probably just being kind of a shitty mother. It's like, why don't you just, teach your daughter how to use these magical things and be responsible with it? But anyways, she says she's desperate. So Tara says, okay, follow me, but not too close. Okay, we have some boundary issues. So they start walking into this foggy forest. Tara sits on a log picking mushrooms or something. And then she asks, what Cressida wants. And so she says that her husband died fighting a ghost shark, and they may be able to bring him back. And her daughter is the one that helped the husband as well. But then again, Tara just says, Ileana should, keep her nose out of that stuff and mind her own business. And then she asks, if Cressida wants her to, raise the dead or whatever. And Cressida's like, no, nothing like that. I just kind of need to know, what my husband did, what kind of safeguards he put into place in case we wanted to bring him back or something like that. So she agrees to help her out, and so they do this little seance. And Cressida says she has psychic abilities but doesn't know how to use them. So they try again, and Tara does some like psychic bullshit stuff. I don't even know what. And then Cressida says she now knows what to do and that the answer was inside of her all along. I would have actually laughed if they just rolled credits at this point. But it was just me all along. Lesson learned. But no, we keep going. And so Cressida says, like, oh, you should come back with us. Your daughter would really like to see you. And, you know, you should just really reconcile your differences. And then Tara says, like, no, maybe I'll see her again someday, but not today. And then she just walks off. And then Cressida says, like, okay, well, I need to get back to Ileana. Back in hell, Anthony has found Caldura and his bikini women and says, like, this is it. And we see that the shark is there, kind of swimming around Caldura. And then Anthony goes to get close without being spotted. But the shark spots him and then shoots fireballs out of its mouth and then starts eating the bikini babes. Not really sure why. I guess the shark is just like in a frenzy. He's like, whoa, fireballs. Whoa, I'm going to eat these women now because I'm so upset about this. Yes, I don't really know. And then Caldura says, Anthony, is that you? You're late. We've been expecting you because I'm a devil man and I know everything. And so Anthony steps out and says he's there to make him let go of his influence over that poor shark. But Caldura says that this shark is pure evil, whether he has influence over it or not. So Anthony gets his magical shields up as him and the shark are like shooting magic at each other. And then Caldura shoots magic, and then Anthony starts running away from this. And the shark hits him a couple of times with some magic bullshit. And so Anthony falls to the ground. And Caldura says that he's going to learn a painful lesson. We go back to Ileana's parlor. Cressida has returned. Ileana is stoked and she hugs and she explains like what happened meeting her mom and all of that nonsense. And then she tells Ileana that she walked out on Anthony and their daughter and like maybe bringing Anthony back will be a way to heal and kind of forgive all of that. So Ileana needs to make a visual connection with Anthony, and then she can make a psychic link to him or something. It's just psychic. They need to do psychic bullshit nonsense so they can get Anthony back. That's what it is at the end of the day. So we go back down to hell, and Caldura says to the shark that once they destroy Anthony, they will destroy the earth just for kicks. So Caldura and the shark then shoot red lightning bolts out of their eyes now. So we've moved away from the fireballs, and we're going to start shooting red lightning out of their eyes. Sure. So they shoot it at Anthony, and Caldura then says the shark is going to kill him and continues on, and Anthony is like crying out for Cressida. And then back at the parlor, Ileana is having trouble trying to make a connection, but Cressida can feel that Anthony is in some sort of trouble right now. And they can see him in the crystal ball at this point. So Cressida concentrates, and then suddenly Anthony just portals to the parlor. And then Anthony says, like, Caldura, the shark, they're coming. It's like when Hulk fucking crashes into Doctor Strange's hideout, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, and says that, like, oh, Thanos is coming. It's pretty much like that. That's basically what we're doing here. And we just see Caldura and the monkeys laughing, and then we see the shark and gator for a second, and then Anthony appears in his house. So he's in, like, some sort of dream sequence right now, and he sees Jill, who I believe is played by John Miglior's actual daughter, who definitely didn't play her in the first movie, because the woman in the first movie is a redhead. This woman, black hair. Like, completely different person. But they show footage of his daughter in the first movie, so it's kind of jarring to just see a completely different actor after showing us footage from the first movie. I mean, it's totally fine, and I get it. These things happen in these kind of movies all the time, or whatever, and he probably just wanted to work with his daughter, which, again, fine. But again, it is just a little bit jarring. So he asks her, like, what are you doing here? And she asks, like, why did he make mom go away? And he apologizes, and then they argue that, like, it's probably because of his magic. And then she says that he's crazy, so that's why mom left. You're crazy with all this magic stuff and whatnot. So they have some, like, father-daughter arguing, and then she starts disappearing into some fire and then just fades away. And then the shark starts, like, bopping into him, and then he wakes up in the parlor. So yeah, that whole thing was just a dream sequence, and now he's back awake in the real world. Cressida greets him with Ileana, and he finally realizes he's back, but there's no time to waste. So Cressida tells him he needs to relax, and they explain how they brought him back. And then he's like actually finally excited to see Cressida. He's like, oh wow, it's really you. Wow. And so Cressida helps him stand up, and he thanks Ileana as well. He sits back down because he's immediately exhausted after this. Oh, I stood for 3 seconds, my lord. And then he realizes that he's also in his pajamas. So at some point, Cressida, she was like, I didn't know what state I was going to find you in, so I brought your pajamas. And then while he was passed out, she changed him. Which I'm like, I get it's your wife or ex-wife, but it's still a little bit weird. But anyways, he then says that dragging him from hell probably left some sort of portal open. And so Caldura could technically find it, use it, and then come into our world and whatnot. And then he also explains that Caldura is the one directly responsible for Ouija Shark. Ileana asks, like, what are we going to do? And then he says that, like, he needs to go back home because everything that they need should be there. And then the room starts, like, shaking, and he says he needs his work clothes, so he suits up in his Doctor Strange BDSM outfit. And then we see a portal appearing outside of a city, opening up. Ouija Shark comes through as people are running away. The shark then chases like some punk rollerblade girl through an alley, and when she thinks she's gotten away, she just ends up skating like right into the shark's mouth. This is where the movie like starts to get really good. I'm really enjoying it up until this point, even though we actually haven't had a whole lot of Ouija Shark and barely any Tarot Gator. The ridiculousness of everything happening so far, I'm reeled right in. Like, when I was watching this, I was zeroed in on this. I was like, this is, like, just pure nonsense, but I love every second of it, even though I don't really know what's going on half the time. But after it eats Rollerblade Girl, it starts shooting some fire at cars, and then Caldura comes through the portal and says that he's going to make this world his. And then a Ouija board appears in his hands with the planchette kind of moving around on its own. And then the shark continues shooting fireballs at people. And then Caldura says something like, oh, let's do an upgrade. So he makes the Ouija shark even bigger. And then we get a news reporter played by Mr. Mike Trebilcock, and he tells us that the shark has grown bigger. And Caldura laughs away as the shark causes more chaos, knocking buildings down and all that fun shit. And then we go back with Anthony and the girls, and they're at his house. He's doing some research, and then Cressida makes some shark cookies for him, and that gives him an idea, because he picks up an alligator cookie from this batch, and then he says something about, like, yeah, the key is in yin and yang. Every opposite force has something, I need to find the opposite of Ouija Shark, which, spoiler alert, it's going to be Tarot Gator. But before they come to all of that realization, Ileana says that the shark and Caldura are on the news, and then we see the news report about them, and then Cressida says that, like, he's using a Ouija board to control the shark, and they need to get rid of it so he can't control the shark. Thank you for clarifying that the thing he's using to control the shark, if they take it away, he can't control it anymore. Just say destroy the board. We can fill in the rest from there. But Anthony says that, the answer lies in the yin and yang, so everything has its opposite. So he sits down in front of the dishwasher, meditates for like 5 seconds or something like that, and then this is where he pulls like a tarot card out with like 6 swords on it, and he's like, oh yeah, we all know what animal that goes with, the alligator. Like, what? I don't know. Like, I don't even know what that means. But he does this, the house shakes, they go outside, and the gator is there. And Anthony says, like, oh, it's nice to meet you. And the gator nods its head. Anthony says, we're all counting on you, and go do what you need to do, Tarot Gator. So he's just Tarot Gator because they needed an animal, and he uses tarot cards. I mean, Anthony uses the tarot cards, not the gator. It would have been hilarious if the Tarot Gator was the one using the tarot cards, but it's fine. So this Tarot Gator is then surrounded by a green orb and then flies into the sky. Yep. So Ouija Shark knocks some plane out of the sky. This plane just dropped off like a bunch of military vehicles, including like surface-to-air missile things. And I'm like, why didn't you just send planes with missiles up? I feel like that could have killed 2 birds with 1 stone here, but anyways, they drop all this military equipment off. The shark takes the plane out. So the military shoots missiles at it, but the shark shoots lasers out of its eyes and they explode. So it can shoot like lasers, red lightning, fireballs, all kinds of shit. This magical Ouija shark, which I mean, it's magic. Anything can happen. So this green orb flies through the city, and then the gator then emerges larger than ever, and the shark starts fighting it. They shoot fireballs at each other. The gator shoots like yellow beams out of its mouth. And then, of course, like there's people caught in the crossfire of some of this. And then people like running away as they see like the silhouettes of the shark and gator and whatnot. And then after the shark and gator have done all their magic shooting back and forth and shit, they then like start fighting / hugging each other, however you want to look at it, depending on what kind of mood you're in. And then Anthony, Ileana, and Cressida arrive and spread out. And then Anthony then randomly asks if they left the TV on at home. And we see that they have. And so we see the news report about this. And then there's a cameo from, I'm pretty fucking sure it was Lloyd Kaufman, talking about Bernie Sanders, how like Bernie lost in 2016, like just something very brief like that. And then he just starts running away when the shark comes on. So bizarre, but fucking hilarious. I loved it. So they plan on taking out Caldura and hope that Ouija Shark will go down when he does. So Tarot Gator grabs Ouija Shark by the tail fin and starts swinging him around at like what looks like fucking light speed. Caldura and Anthony then shoot like magic at each other back and forth. Caldura shoots lightning at Ileana, but she picks up a magic shield. And then the three of them shoot their magics, whatever it is, at Caldura. And he blocks it very easily. The creatures are continuing to fight while planes try to shoot them down. And then again, we just get like various shots of people reacting in silly ways. We see a guy in a shark costume has a sign that says like the end is nigh. But then this guy in an alligator costume comes up and says like, hey, this is my corner. And then they start fighting. Hilarious. But then Caldura hits Ileana with some magic and she falls. But then Tara shows up and is like, no one does that to my daughter, and gets away with it. So they all start shooting magic at Caldura, and then Ileana stands up and she's happy to see that her mom was there just for her. And so she starts shooting magic at Caldura, and then Caldura starts getting overwhelmed and his shields drop. The creatures, they fight and bite. Caldura falls into the portal, and then soon after, the monsters disappear. And Ileana starts celebrating. She looks for her mom, but her mom has already walked away and disappeared. She's like, I saved you for 5 seconds, now I'm done. That's as much as I want to see you. Their relationship is fucked, apparently, because my god, like, your daughter almost died fighting ghost gator sharks and devil demon people, and you're still just like, nope, not sticking around. Sounds good. Fuck's sakes. But anyways, after this, we go to the parlor, and Ileana is being welcomed into Anthony and Cressida's circle of magic. And Ileana is like, oh, does this mean, like, we're almost like family now? And they're like, yeah, you're definitely our family now. And it's like, oh, yeah, and they all hug each other and whatnot. And she says she misses her mom, but Cressida is like, I'm sure she'll be back someday. She probably just needs more time or something. I really need to know what happened to these two for this woman to just, like, walk off in the middle of this fight and just be like, yep, well, I've done my part now, and now I'm never talking to you. Because I feel like this is one of those things where it's like, maybe we can set aside our differences and talk for a bit. But nope, she's just like, fuck you, I'm done. So they give Ileana a cup of wine, which is like the cup of life or something like that. All this just like metaphorical shit. They give her a magic wand, and then a coin, which represents her physical needs somehow. And then finally a sword. And she promises to use these gifts very wisely. And Cressida says, well, you're going to have to if we're going to find our daughter Jill. Anthony then says that they must stand to fight against any evil or magic that tries to do bad stuff. And Anthony proclaims them as Tarot Force. So that's their superhero name group, is Tarot Force. And then they just start spinning their magical shields around and whatnot, and we roll credits. But wait, a mid-credits scene. Anthony finds the Ouija Shark board and says he sure hopes this works, and starts restoring the city and its buildings and whatnot, and then looks into the camera and says, super. Okay. But wait, there's an after-credit scene. So we see the punk rollerblade girl in hell, who's now in a bikini. So I guess when you get killed by the shark, or Caldura in some way, you return to his circle as a bikini babe. Which, I mean, honestly, dope ass power, man. Like, that's pretty fucking cool. But she basically says something like, hell really sucks, or whatever. One of the other girls agrees with them, and, like, she gets eaten. Oh, I should also mention, she is also holding a little tiny gorilla wearing a bike helmet in her arms as she proclaims how much hell sucks. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck that is supposed to mean. God damn. But yeah, that's that, and that's the end of the movie. That's all we get. This is the shit I like. Man, this is pure nonsense. Somehow good-looking slop, though. Like, the movie... Like, basically the entire movie is almost done in front of a green screen, except for the forest scenes and whatnot. But it somehow still looks good, even though it's cheap. Like, it looks exactly how this movie probably should look for this concept. Like, the effects were exactly what I was expecting. The Tarot Gator and Ouija Shark were just, like, plushy, ghost-like things. My only complaint is I wish we had seen them more. But even with how little we did see them, I still enjoyed the shit out of this movie. Like, this was almost exactly what I was looking for. But overall, it was fun. We got music by Mike Trebilcock and a little bit of a cameo from him as well. But overall, as I said, it was fun. It's just ridiculous. Listen, I'm going 4 stars on this one. I had a fucking blast with this. And this is 100% something I will rewatch again in the future. Again, I'm also very excited they're making a 3rd one. I feel like it's the same crew as this one. So as much as it sucks that, like, Brett Kelly didn't get invited to, you know, do the sequel or whatever, I still really enjoyed this movie. I still thought it was a blast. I had a lot of fun with it. It's on Tubi if you want to watch it. I think it's also on YouTube on some channels. So yeah, with a couple of ads here and there, honestly, it's worth it. It's an hour and 20 minutes. It didn't feel that long to me. Like, it felt like it was an hour long, in my opinion, just because it was so crazy and weird and whatnot. But I honestly had a blast with it. But that's all I have for Ouija Shark 2. Thank you guys so much for listening to Sharktober episode 2 for this year. Next week, I've got another Polonia Brothers movie. And then at the end of the month, we have a special guest episode. I'm sure some of you probably know what episode that will be. But if you don't, we'll save that for a little bit of a surprise. But for now, I'll see you guys next time for even more Bucket of Chum.
I'm the hottest,
Not so modest.
I bring the heat to the underworld.
Hooray!
My slaves are all as happy as a shark in heat. With me, Caldura in charge. I'm a hit in Hades.
With the ladies.
I can't be beat with my fireballs.
Ooh.
You can roast a weenie over a kitten.
But why?
With me, Caldura in charge. And until my living world domination, they'll just have to settle for that cold imitation. Everything is spicier with heat appreciation, and me, Caldura in charge.